Guys.
Look at that, huh?
Good Friday morning, guys. My name is Jerry Miller, and thank you kindly for joining us on Real Talk with Keith Smith. It's a pleasure to connect with you guys on the I Love CVille Network on a show that is in its sixth season. Real Talk with Keith Smith, 6 years of running and proudly serving the Charlottesville, Albemarle, Fluvanna County, and Central Virginia community. And folks, Real Talk with Keith Smith features a man that is a household name with a sterling reputation, who is for the third straight year a national award winner, a Riz Media Award winner, recognition for the best of the best. And that's our Keith Smith on Real Talk with Keith Smith. Join us in today's discussion by asking questions and shaping the show with thoughts, with perspective, with challenging commentary. We're going to be talking about cash is king today. I have a one-sheeter in my hands that speaks to the prolific nature of cash buyers. And the interesting aspect of the prolific nature of cash buyers in the Charlottesville Area Association of Realtors footprint, it's not just in the jumbo threshold. It's at every level.
You found that interesting.
I found it extremely profound. And I'm glad he broke it down, and you'll see it here in a matter of moments. Does Mr. Wickower, our producer, our director, have those slides?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Why don't we
well,
go to
I emailed them to him. If he has them, and that's a different.
I find the most profound thing I find here is the 0 to 300,000 price range and the 300,000 to 500,000 price range, because that's your first-time home buyer price range and your move-up price range, and cash is damn near close to dominating some of these categories.
So
studio camera and two-shot Keith Smith, Judah.
He's probably busy. Because Smith gave him the slides a little too late. I actually did this presentation at the Thomas Jefferson Planning District Commission, not presentation, but at the end of it, we do a round table, and I have all at the table as elected officials from all the 6 jurisdictions. So I usually take an opportunity during my round table discussions to say, okay, Louisa, do you want to know what's going on in your market, and so forth and so on. But everybody was exactly your comment. 40, when Judah gets an opportunity to put it up, 42% in the car footprint of 0 to 300 sales price, this is for the whole year of 24, was 42%. Now, there was 58% loans, but 42%. What's interesting, national average is around 32%, which call it a third of it. So we're kind of beating that average that way. And at the question I was asked, and I'm sure, Jerry, you know it, why is, if between 0 and 300 is let's consider it first-time home buyers.
It's really on screen, ladies and gentlemen. Look at the screen. Look at the screen. Neil Williamson watching the program today. He's got a mixer at Rapture Restaurant around the corner, and you want to support the Free Enterprise Forum.
When is that?
Not through just fresh and ice-cold libations and on the bar tab of Sir Neil Williamson and the Free Enterprise Forum, but across the board. I am on the Free Enterprise Forum genuinely twice a day at least. It's one of the first websites I visit every single morning. I genuinely mean that. And at times I find myself disappointed when I do not have Neil's commentary to read on his website, because I yearn for his commentary, his analysis, and of course his pop culture references. Thursday, April 17th from 4:30 to 6:30, which I'm very excited for, Keith Smith.
So, just to talk a little bit, because we usually talk about this on Friday morning, is what's coming on, what's going off. I just looked at it for the first time this morning for today. 90 new homes came on this last 7 days, and last week it was 60. So inventory starting to pick up. First week of January was 30. So we went from 30 the first week of January to this particular week of 90. There are 66 that went pending. So this week we've kind of had more come on than go off, which is not normal. right? Or let me rephrase that. That's probably more normal, right? But normal recently, where as soon as stuff comes on, it goes off. So I think inventory is starting to pick up a little bit. I have to go back and look at the last time we were at 90. It was probably around May or June of last year. But the tempo's picking up out there, and we're kind of sensing it for those of us who are in the field helping folks. But back to the cash thing.
Please, that's what I want to focus on. And Judah's got that slide that we should put back on screen, please.
This was, I had a bunch of viewers and listeners say, hey, how much is cash impacting the market? So this slide kind of tells the story. And I had to break it down. And obviously the largest volume of sales is this 300 to 500, because with a medium sales price in the car footprint around 485, it kind of falls right into that category. But just take a look at it. 0 to 300, 42%, 300 to 500, 24% was cash, 5 to 700, 28, 7 to 1 mil, 35, 1 mil to 2 mil, to your point, was 56, and 2 mil and over was 75%. And you kind of would expect that, to see the upper end stuff,
without question, especially with rates with the 7 handle on it. I was blown away in the price range of $0 to $300,000. This is.
So what do you think that is?
This is a starter. This is a first-time home buyer home. 42%, ladies and gentlemen, of homes in 2024 in the $0 to $300,000 acquisition price were all cash. Why do I think that is? Because it's a competitive market.
Because I asked the same question of the elected officials last night to see what their response was. So.
Because it's a competitive market, and cash gives an upper hand in the negotiation process. Because it's an interest rate environment, while historically affordable, is in recent years expensive. Because gifts are becoming more prolific from parents to millennials when purchasing homes. This is a market that is extremely fluid, and when you're able to, create a metronome-like consistency in the negotiation process, which is what cash provides, then you have the upper hand when trying to buy a home.
And I haven't had a chance to dive into this, because this takes some work to do, but to answer the comment I'm about ready to say, it's going to take a ton of work. I think a lot of that's investor money. A lot of that is, and the only way you're going to get to know that is you got to dig into each one of the.
I'd push back on that.
Yeah, cool.
I'm very curious to see on that. I would push back on that.
Well, the problem with that, in order to define that,
you're going to have a hard time figuring that out.
Well, you can.
How you're going to figure it out is how many of the buyers are in LLCs.
No, actually.
How would you figure that out?
I would go into GIS for each one of the transactions.
Yeah.
And then find, you can take a look at the sales transfers on it, but to your point, you could look at in Paragon and see.
That's the easiest way in Paragon, is to figure out which ones were purchased in LLC form.
But
because going through the GIS, which I spent hours on, is clunky as hell.
Oh, unbelievably clunky. But then you can figure out the who, right?
Yeah, but you can with Paragon as well.
You can, but it really depends on what they put in on who the buyer is. But you can get clunky as heck, but you can go ahead and do it. And you have to go into each one.
Right.
But some people don't buy them in LLCs. They buy them personally. But
which is a show in and of itself. Which is who's buying investment property and without corporate protection is. If you're doing that, that's buffoon-esque.
Yeah, well. How many real estate agents I know that don't do business on an LLC?
That's buffoon-esque as well.
Yeah, that's just like so. We'd have to dig into it, but it was a surprising number. I didn't expect to see that number that high. I expected that to be closer to the 20s, not in the 40 plus range. The 24% at the 300 to 500 kind of feels right to that end of it, and then same thing for the 5 to 700. But again, it's just, if there's any real estate agents out there, what they kind of feel about this and what they're seeing out there. The follow-up question that I got at the meeting last night was, why do I think the Fulvana County market is not moving as fast.
I had that on my list. I've spent a significant amount of time on the MLS, the various MLS websites, and ladies and gentlemen, Lake Monticello, in particular, is starting to get, and Keith is going to utilize this argument, 4,300 homes, and in the grand scheme of things, we'd have 100 or so homes on the market at one time. Right now, you look at Lake Monticello, the largest neighborhood in Central Virginia, as Keith calls it, a litmus test, and you have a significant amount of inventory.
You do. I think it's somewhere around 26. I didn't look today on it. Again, I don't find that as a big thing, but I think what they were talking about was the increase, small incremental increase in value. It was somewhere around 2.5% between 23 and 24, where you have places like Charlottesville between 23 to 24 jump 15%, right, in value. And I think the reason that is that, to your point, when you're looking at 7 or 8% mortgage rate, it kind of impacts that market the most. That's where the affordability shows up, and the difference between a 4 and an 8, or a 4 and a 7, or a 3 and a 7 on that end of it. So that's kind of
basically what Keith is saying is Fluvanna County has become a bastion of first-time home buyers, or the move-up buyer, where the city of Charlottesville is no longer a first-time home buyer market, and the city of Charlottesville is now a boomer looking to downsize, or it's a family that's in their third purchase, their fourth purchase, because they can afford this type of asking price in the city of Charlottesville.
Median sales price in 24 for Charlottesville was $530 versus $460 in 23. That's a 15.2% jump. But yeah, so I think,
Cope, welcome to the program, the talented appraiser. He asked, where's the Woodster? Which I think is a reference to Woody Fincham. Woody Fincham joins us about once every 30 days on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
I have him come on once a month. Well, I actually invited him today because I wanted his impact from an appraiser's perspective of cash and the impact on the market. And I want to get to that in a second, because I wanted to throw a question out there for either my fellow realtors or the appraisers that may be watching on this. But Lake Monticello, I've been living there since '87.
You know it like the Pope knows holy water.
I know it very well, and it's still a great value, So I don't, if you're a first-time home buyer and you're looking to buy, or any buyer at that price point particularly, there's opportunities out there, and please consider it. Please take a look at it. You won't go wrong. It's a great community. That said, so the question that I wanted to ask the realtors and the appraisers out there was, when I do a cash transaction, when I represent a cash transaction, I always recommend that they go ahead and hire Woody, right? Or they hire
Fincham & Associates,
an appraiser, to do an appraisal. And actually, if they refuse to do that, I have them sign a little disclosure saying that I made this recommendation and they didn't. And it's just a great tool to use. Sometimes you can use it for negotiation purposes later on down the road, but it's just a great understanding that said, okay, this is the value of the property that I bought. Now, particularly in today's market, right? When things were moving so fast and prices climbing so fast, and if you're doing a cash, one of these 40-something, 42%, whatever the number was, of cash buyers, maybe say at Lake Monticello, and the price spread is only a couple of percentage points between 23 to 24, and you're buying cash, it just makes good sense to have an appraiser come in. We'll go and give you a CMA, but, and this is where they hire Woody Fincham. So I'm just curious if how the appraisers feel about that, where they think the value add is at it, and the same thing with the real estate agents.
Let us know, viewers and listeners. Put them in the feed. We'll relay them live on air. We've been talking about multifamily housing on the I Love CVille Network. The Virginia Association of Realtors released its 2024 report. The vacancy rate, 7.5% with multifamily housing. And ladies and gentlemen, an abundance of multifamily set to come on the market, including national developer Subtext context, less about 24 months away from 1,332 beds on Stadium Road. National developer Greystar, 1,500 plus beds on Old Ivy Road, 24 months away. And UVA requiring second years to live on grounds, 24 months away. So you lose tenants from the tenant pool at the same time that basically 3,000 beds are coming on the market, while the vacancy rate is 7.5%, higher than Blacksburg, Harrisonburg, Winchester, and the 757, the vacancy rate. We'll talk about that on the program. Questions are coming in about cash is king. Go ahead, Keith. Before
Well,
you
I
lose
wanted
that
to jump
thought.
in on that, but let's do the cash is king question.
No, I want you should offer that thought so we don't lose it,
Yeah, thank you.
because I know it's going to be poignant.
We're approaching our 7th year together, and
I know you quite well.
You know my ADD, but I did make a note.
Michael Pruitt, Almore County Board of Supervisors, hello.
Hey,
Conan
Michael.
Owen, hello. Sir Speedy. Scott Beyer, the real estate developer, hello. Ian Caskell, the financier, welcome to the broadcast.
So I don't know the answer to this, but I was wondering what the industry norm for vacancy rate is, right? Is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 2% on that? That being said,
I mean, we're higher than Harrisonburg,
Yeah.
Winchester,
yeah,
Blacksburg,
yeah.
parts of Northern Virginia, and the Hampton Roads area.
So I got scolded a couple of years ago, well, about a year ago, when I said on the show, keep an eye on multifamily. We're overbuilding it. This is a result of that. It's a nationwide thing. It's impacting us a little bit on multifamily. I'd love to take a deeper dive into the occupancy rate for this apartment complex in Fulton County called at Colonial Circle, but I've got phone calls into the owners of that, and I'll share that information when they give that to me, see how that's going, because that's a 60% AMI and below project, so I'm just curious how their occupancy is going. But look, this is what this industry does, right? We're, for whatever reason, 4 or 5 years ago, particularly in the beginning of the COVID pandemic, projects were getting approved fast and furious, nationwide. Same thing here. And what happens is, and this is indicative to the problem of rezoning, right? I'm living proof of that. I lost $17 million because it took 6 years to get a project approved, right? So when you have these projects that take these long to approve, the market changes. So they're making a bet from 6 years ago, or however long it takes to get a project done and get moving along. What has happened? It's supply and demand. There's more product on the market. There's also more product on the market at the luxury level, not necessarily the entry level.
Yeah, you're talking multifamily.
Multifamily.
Yeah,
This is a
multifamily.
Pure multifamily.
Multifamily, if you were bringing workforce housing and Section 8 housing to the market and rents all day, every day, and twice on Sunday, no problem, easy peasy, Sunday breezy. The multifamily that's coming to market is luxury. And it's
Correct.
coming to market at a clip of $2,500, $3,000 and up from a monthly rent standpoint. And the folks that can afford that would rather just pay a mortgage.
So just take a look at the project where.
And you know, this is the activists in the community that have been pushing the council to approve the multifamily.
Well,
It's the
these
activists that have been bullying council and supervisors to do this.
Well, these projects that have these vacancy rates right now began years and years and years ago. So Stonefield would be an example, right? So there's a luxury apartment in Stonefield. I don't know if everybody remember how long it took.
We talk about it all the time.
How long it took Stonefield to get approved. Literally a decade plus, right? To get approved.
120 units vacant at the Elysian in Stonefield.
100%. And the reason is now it was approved so many years ago, that's what they needed to build. And there's very little fluctuation once the project gets approved at whatever zoning, because otherwise you got to go back to the city or the county and start getting it changed as far as the zoning and what they can build and master plan approvals and so forth and so on.
Do you have that Virginia Association of Realtors data from yesterday's program, the slide that we could put on screen for the vacancy rate for multifamily, net absorption rates?
But we've been talking about this forever.
On screen. Take a look at the screen, viewers and
you.
listeners, supervisors and counselors and developers watching the program right now.
And
Show's on fire.
We've been talking about this being a problem. I was actually chastised by folks in the multifamily space when I did it, that I didn't know what I was talking about, which is usually the case. But we're just overbuilding. I've seen it happen with the single family. Now, I don't want folks to hit the rental panic button because the single family detached and the attached rentals have the opposite, right? Right. They have a high occupancy rate and rents are climbing on that. So if you are
Workforce housing rents are climbing.
yeah, it's the luxury units. They just overbuilt them because 6, 5, 10 years ago, that's what was working.
Keith, Neil Williamson puts it in perspective for us. The Presidente of the Free Enterprise Forum, Olivia
That's a
Branch.
really good beer, by the way.
Welcome to the program. Presidente?
Yeah, it's the only thing you can get in the Caribbean.
Okay, Presidente is a very good beer. I need to try that beer next time. Agents from 5 firms watching
You got to
the
go
program.
down to the Caribbean with me.
I need to do that. Neil Williamson says the national rental, Judah, this is an important statistic for you to remember as well. Make sure this burns in your memory, Judah Wickhauer.
Or write it down.
The national rental vacancy rate, 6.9%.
There you go. Thank you, Lindy.
For the third quarter of 2024. That's an increase of 4.5% year over year. And he includes a source, a link in the comment section of
There you
my
go.
page. So
There's the number.
Charlottesville metro area is 7.5%.
Yep.
The national is 6.9%.
Yeah.
And within the next 24 months, a national developer named Subtex is bringing 1,332 beds, 1,332
So
beds
the
on Stadium Road. A national developer, Greystar, is bringing 1,500 beds on Old Ivy Road, all at the same time that UVA is going to require second years to live on grounds.
100%. Both those projects started a long time ago. So the question that I would have, and look, I'm a for sale guy, right? That's the world ownership is the world that I live in. I know enough about rentals to be dangerous. My question would be on these beds that are coming up, at what price points?
Student housing. So it's not going to be cheap. Targeting mom and daddy's black Amex, the card that Keith has in his wallet right now.
It's only black because I spray painted it black. It impresses people. I think mine is transparent, is what it is based on the comment. Yeah, so
Woody Fincham's got some commentary. Keith Smith, keep opining for the program.
Yeah, so I don't know how the business model of student housing. I actually have a client that I helped buy property for. Just did a project in Blacksburg on it. I don't know how the business model works, where you have all these units, student housing on, and you got to go on campus for the second year, so that leaves only...
On grounds.
On grounds, thank you. That only leaves...
Keith's like, this pretentious duck. Quack, quack, quack.
Well, if you talk about the Marine Corps, I would go ahead and push back. So there you go. On grounds. You'd think after 40 years I'd be able to get that right.
It's got an air of pretentiousness.
You
but
think?
At the same time, I appreciate the traditional nature of it.
Well, I tell people all the time, I belong to the world's greatest fraternity. So
there you go.
And
Marine Corps.
Anyway, so thanks. There you go. There's the
I know. I'm sorry. I hesitated. I wanted to add a little click and clack to it, but
I would love to know what the business model looks like, and then what's the pivot, right? So if I don't know, how many students do we have? Like 25,000?
UVA, Judah, give us the student body population of the University of Virginia.
Well,
Can you find that for me?
More importantly, what's the
Google's the best way to find that there, Judah. You gave me that look. How am I supposed to know this? Well, you have a computer.
I wish we had these things you can hold in your hand. Right. And ask questions.
It's got 3 of them in front of you.
How much third years? Well, it would be third years, fourth years, and then everything after that.
Grad students, yeah. I want to know undergrad and grad population, Judah. Yeah. Undergrad and grad population.
So let's call it 30,000 just to pick a number, right?
Oh, we have a 3we with Judah Wickhauer?
Yeah.
Oh, you got
you do.
Very, there we go.
Hey, Judah.
We love you, Judah. We appreciate you, Judah.
We love you, man.
Yeah. So Judah Wickhauer is coming in on a 3 here. Woody Fincham, you're on deck.
Oh, look at that. 91 homes just came. Another house just came on the market.
How many went pending? That's the stat I follow closely.
That's the one I really follow.
That's the one I care about.
68.
Okay. That's the one I care about.
That went up 2.
Okay.
Since we spoke.
UVA's got approximately
25,600
students.
25,000?
600 students.
That's
and,
undergrad.
16,300 300 plus are undergrads, 6,500 plus.
Are you moving your chair? Is that noise coming from your chair or no?
Possibly.
Okay, yeah. So what's the total number?
6,500 plus for grads.
6,500 for grads, and how many undergrads?
16,300 plus.
So
But
we're
out
looking
of
at
that 16, how many is first and second?
Well, it's usually an even
It's
split.
still even split?
Yeah, it's
Shows you how
usually an
much I
even
know.
split.
Yeah, okay.
I went to UVA first year, Dabney 101 on grounds, old dorms. Second year, my buddies and I terrorized Lambeth Commons, which was
So call it 12,000
apartments on
students,
grounds.
roughly? Right? Between the last...
Well, first years you can't include
Well,
because
my-
they are always expected to live on grounds.
The-
The requirement of second years living on grounds is something that's being removed from the tenant ecosystem.
I got it, sir. But the point I'm trying to drive to from a business model perspective, I have roughly 12,000 heads, bodies, that can live off campus. Not all of those 12,000 will live off campus. So if I've got 12,000 bodies that can live off campus, how many beds, student beds, are out there? We know the flat's got, what, 1,000?
Yeah,
Right,
I'd say
that
that's
kind of
fair.
kind of thing.
Then you got the standard across the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm just wondering is, and plus, a bunch of these students, because I know my son-in-law did this and my daughter did this when he was at med school. They lived in a house with a bunch of other med students.
Yeah.
So I just would love to understand the business model that they thought, and I'll bet you when they built their business models way back when, they built it on second years not going on, because that's like 2,000 to 3,000 heads that are now on campus, or grounds.
Holly Foster watching the
Hey,
program,
Holly.
the Queen of Henrico. That's great to hear. She says she's glad to see that you're feeling better.
Thank you. Thank
She
you, Holly.
is heading home and is rehabilitated from hip surgery and is in upper great spirits right now. We love to see that, Holly Foster.
God bless you, Holly.
Woody Fincham, it's a pendulum and early adapters start to swing, and they generally are going to be the ones that make the most of the money. And then everybody else jumps on the momentum increases, and then the market saturates, and then the pendulum has to swing in a different direction.
To that point, I had a development conversation with somebody asking me how come there's no small to medium developers in the market.
I can
Only
tell you why
large-
that is.
And that's all because it's a true cash business now.
Yeah.
And if you don't have the
Small to medium-sized developers don't have the cash position to move in this market.
well, they don't have the cash position to wait it out.
Right.
And they don't have the cash position because if we're having 7, 8, 10, 12% vacancy in apartments that they're building, somebody's going to have to manage that cash flow.
That's why some folks have pushed back, and it's a topic for maybe this show or a different show. Neil Williamson's friend of the program, one of the smartest guys we know, is pushing Albemarle County to convert or to allow the conversion of commercial to residential, which would probably be multifamily. And some folks have pushed back on me and said, "Hey, do we need more multifamily?"
No. Multifamily ownership or rental, two different animals, and it performs very
I
differently.
don't think the commercial and the designated growth area in Albemarle County's urban ring would be ownership. They would not be
Why not?
You're saying they're going to create condos
Yeah, why not?
in Albemarle Square Shopping Center?
One of the
I think they would create rentals, not condos.
I don't think so. Not if multifamily keeps on rentals keeps on performing the way I think it's going to perform. But what's one of the best
I'll
ways?
push back respectfully on that.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking at it from a market.
Someone converting a shopping center into a condo complex,
first of
that
all-
is a friction-filled path.
Well, first of all, you're talking about making it through the process.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I'm talking about what the market.
Financing as well.
100%. I'm talking about what the
Rental is much less friction.
But if you don't have the occupancy,
Then that's why the person who's communicating with me, who is on literally the guy that's doing the work, said that's never going to happen.
it would be very interesting to watch these projects that are rental if they start going back to the way they did in the time of great unpleasantness, where they switched them from rental to condos.
Well, we saw that at
Walker
the villas
Square
at Southern Ridge,
and Walker
where I own a rental.
Walker Square did
And
that.
when Bart Fry from Virginia Beach, the developer, tried to convert Country Green Apartments,
Yeah.
which was the ghetto, into owned condos, he made it 2 phases and said, I can't sell these units, and then made them apartment rentals again.
So I'm going to look at something real quick. I'm just talking about housing affordability, and I'm talking about getting into the ownership game. Condos are a really great first start. They're generally a little bit more inexpensive.
They're few and far between and difficult to find financing for.
100% that. But from a model perspective, from an ownership model perspective, they can do that. I'm not disagreeing with you at all, but if you could figure out a way to generate condos, it's a great ownership models. It's a great first step into it. I'm trying to take a look at what just sold and how many of them were condos.
This question's come on multiple comments. How is someone going to be able to buy a house if Keith is saying 42% of starter homes are selling with all cash? $0 to $300,000. There were 429 homes sold in 2024. 42% of those, 179, were all cash. The folks watching the program saying, how can we do that?
Yeah. And that's when you have to get skilled people. It is a hard thing. It's why for 10 years I've been preaching and working hard at housing affordability. It's part of the recognition of the award. If I had a magic answer to that, I'd be solving all the problems and probably own the island that I go to down in the Caribbean on a regular thing. The $300,000 to $500,000 price range is also at 24%.
Right. So one in 4 of them, and the $300,000 to $500,000 price range, frankly speaking, in a lot of this area, is still the first-time home buyer category.
That's the point I'm actually trying to make. So the 0 to 300%.
That's a needle in a haystack.
Finding it that's in the right location.
Yeah.
We can say the price is right. Is it the right features? Is it the right condition?
Is it in good condition?
Do you have to put money?
Another $100K into it.
Another $100K into it, right? And buyers right now that are out there, you've got to hit those first 4, in order to even get off first base. Got to be at the right location, price, features, and condition. Then timing and who's on the other side kicks in. If I had that magic answer, we'd be doing it. I'm parcel to the land trust. I chair it. I have a little news on that I can share, which is trying to work. If you pull up 820 Nassau Street, we just bought and re-put back in. We've changed our AMI model from 80. We started at 80, we're up to 115% now. So we're now going up to 115%.
How does that work?
So it's 115% of area median income.
Oh, I know what area median income is. How do you go up to 115%?
It's what we decide to do. It's what the board decides to do.
Oh,
Right.
That's what that means.
Yeah, so the board for a decade that I was on it capped it at 80%. And the problem is...
So that's an application.
That's what we require.
So up to 115%?
Yep.
So was someone making $0?
Say that again?
How do you up to 115% AMI?
Mm-hmm.
What is that person making at
I'm going to tell you that right now.
124,200 is AMI? You're saying
One person household is 113,580. So pull up 820 Nassau Street. So what was happening at 200...
The land trust is selling homes to a family household that is clear at 113K?
So that's where the land trust models are going nationally. Because what's happening at 80% AMI, the buyers can't buy at 8% interest. They're not qualifying. They may make that amount of money or less, but they can't qualify. So now we can go up to 115%. We've decided to do this ourselves. Now, if we're dealing with something that has a proffer in it or something like that, that's a whole different animal. But these are properties that we are selling, that we own, and we're going to turn around and resell. So if you pull up on 820 Nassau Street, it's a $265,000 house. We bought it back from the land trust owner because she couldn't sell it at 80% AMI at 265 because she couldn't find a buyer that met that criteria at 8%.
What'd you buy it back from her for?
$265.
What'd she pay for it?
$242.
Okay.
So she's walking away. This is the model. She's walking away with some equity on it, and she's moving up the housing ladder. There's a relocation. She has to relocate for work purposes on it. We're turning around and reselling it at $265. And I've got about 24 people in the pipeline that are ready to do it because now this 115 AMI buyer actually can afford a $265. By the way, Woody Fincham, thank you. That's a $425,000 appraised home that we're selling at $265. To the question, to the answer, how is this going to happen? Now we end up connecting with a wider swath of people that can buy. Now maybe you can buy this $265,000, or if the land trust has enough capital to buy more at $300 or $350 and resell them back out, they might start meeting that criteria. But it's just a matter of trying to figure out a way to make it work. I know this much. Albemarle County, Charlottesville, all the surrounding counties, private firms are not going to give the land trust $20, $30 million or more, because that's what we need to make a huge impact to go and sell it. Here's the deal. If we needed to sell that at the 80% AMI thing, we're going to have to bring $50,000 to $75,000 worth of subsidy to the table. That's the difference between an 80 and 115. Am I making any sense?
No, you're making a lot of sense here. Neil Williamson on the office to residential conversion. He highlights this national statistic. Office to residential conversion projects in the U.S. have spiked in 2025 with 70,700 new housing units in the pipeline, according to a report from Rent Cafe. That number, a 28% jump from 2024, comprises roughly 51,700 units carried over from last year's pipeline, plus roughly 19,000 new conversions added to the mix, the report found.
So I think Albemarle County should do this. I think it'll be as impactful as the rezoning in the city of Charlottesville. There just isn't that much product type or property out there that one can do this with. And then the ones that are out there are generally complicated in their ownership structures.
Yeah.
Or have multiple owners on it.
Well, and we're also highlighting the fact that multifamily is soft. So you're basically saying this has to be a condo conversion. And a commercial to condo conversion, has that ever been done in Albemarle County's history?
Say that again now?
A commercial
No, it hasn't, because he's not.
to condo conversion.
You would have to rezone it.
That,
So the answer to that is no. So what Neil is proposing.
a commercial to rental conversion has never been done. That's way easier than a commercial to condo for sale conversion.
It requires, regardless of its ownership or rental or whatever, let me get this out. It requires rezoning.
We know that. Either one requires rezoning.
What Neil is proposing, and I'll let him correct me if I'm wrong, what Neil is proposing is to make it a by right use. That's the difference, which is exactly what the city has done with the rezoning thing, except they've screwed up the site plan side of it, and nobody's producing anything because it's ridiculously complicated to do that. So you could rewrite the zoning ordinance, Albemarle County, to say, okay, in industrial and commercial, you're allowed to have this type of residential in it. Then it's zoned, it's by right. Then you got to go through the whole site plan process on it. And if they rewrite it, I'm confident they'll rewrite it where they'll mirror their new developer incentives and their affordable housing incentives, with AMI percentage and so many, property types and product types. I mean, that'll happen. I'm sure of it. But that's also going to be, oh my God, we'll be on our 14th year of Real Talk when that happens. But it's a good thing, and he's 100% right. When you sit down, when I sit down.
We're on year 6, by the way, for those viewers and listeners. We're on year 6.
I understand that, but it'll be year 14.
Yeah, I know what he's saying.
Got it. Yeah. I missed that little quantifier.
I'm trying to put in perspective how long it would be.
Yeah. And that's being generous.
That's being generous. Generous.
But to Neil's point in this conversation, and this is important to have, and tie it to the ward and the people that I'm talking to nationally, this is what other jurisdictions are doing. Look at Scott's Addition in Richmond. That's literally what they did, right? They revamped Scott's Addition, which was all industrial, which was a huge industrial complex. It had,
Warehouse space.
Interbake is a company that for a millennial, all your crackers and stuff came from Interbake. Well, they shut down and converted that into a pretty awesome apartment complex. And what they did is they rolled in, if you want to get a beer, if you want to get a taco, or you want to do whatever, that's where you go. And I just know it because my daughter's around the corner and we tend to go there on a regular basis. Could have something to do with the
Scott's Addition's awesome.
But
it's absolutely, we love it there.
But we don't have.
It's a brewery epicenter.
We don't have. Well, it's both. It's brewery. Richmond made the investment to upgrade the bus line going down Broad. I mean, there was a lot.
We don't have what? What were you going to say there? This is important.
We don't have a Scott's Addition.
Right.
And that's it. Should the Board of Supervisors do this? Absolutely yes. Even if it produces one or two projects, it should keep its ordinances up with the times that was happening out in the field, out in the actual market. We don't have a Scott's Addition.
Supervisor Pruitt, little commentary right there for you. Donna Price, the former
saw him
supervisor.
yesterday.
Hello.
Had a great conversation with him.
Neil Williamson says, Keith is right. I predict 100 units in 18 months after Albemarle enacts this change. It may not be that important a number, but 100 units is 100 families.
It's 100 units, is 100 families, and from a politics perspective, they're getting it and they're moving the needle forward. If we had a Scott's Addition, it would be hugely impactful, but it's not. But 100 is 100. That being said, I'm looking at it from a different perspective, that the Albemarle County Board of Supervisors are starting to hear folks like Neil, folks like us, and starting to move that needle. So making that change, I think, is more impactful than the 100 units.
Who's going to run for Diantha McKeel's open seat?
Man,
is Ned Galloway going to have any competition? What's Jim Andrews doing in the Samuel Miller district?
Well,
who's going to challenge Brian Pinkston and Juan Diego Wade?
Well,
why do we not have contested elections?
Why? Or why does contested?
We know contested elections matter.
Thank you very much.
Why don't we have them?
Thank you very much.
Don't have a single damn one.
At the moment, we don't.
And we're in February.
And we're in February, and to put a pin on it, if you are running with a D or an R, you've got to April, right? Because that's when the preliminaries. Help me out, Neil. Primaries, thank you. The primaries are. Other than that, you got to June. And usually, everybody's kind of waiting back and forth. That being said, we're going to have some announcements on Real Talk from some elected folks that reached out.
That sounds like Fluvanna County to me.
And others.
What? Others? What is that?
And others.
Which county?
And others.
Okay.
That reached out to me to announce on the show. So
they're going to announce that they're going to challenge incumbents? Are they going to challenge incumbents or seek re-election?
I'm trying to figure out how I can tease this with that.
Challenge incumbents or seek re-election?
Maybe a little of both.
Okay, so we got...
Let me try it this way.
We got someone challenging an incumbent in Fluvanna County.
Maybe yes, maybe no yes.
We got a Fluvanna County incumbent challenge.
But as those I've said before, I'm working on setting up a local voices, local choices show. We're going to be focusing on these things, and I'm making phone calls to folks that are running, and then what I hear through the grapevine that may run. And a couple of them said, we'd like to announce on your show. So stand by. We might get a couple of announcements.
We're currently 3 seats open in Albemarle County, Samuel Miller District, which is kind of south side Charlottesville, that area. The Jack Jewett District, comprising a lot of Ivy, where Diantha McKeel will not seek a 4th term. Ned Galloway pursuing a 3rd term. As Supervisor Galloway, he ran unopposed last election cycle. Did Supervisor Galloway run unopposed in the first election? Broadmoor County?
That I can't remember.
Neil Williamson, can you help me with that? I know he ran unopposed last for a 2nd term, and so far no competition in the 3rd term for Supervisor Galloway.
So to give a little bit more shout out to Neil and the Free Enterprise Forum, get on his Google or pull up Talking Turkey, and it shows exactly who's running.
Okay, let me offer a little insight to what he's talking about here. Pull up Talking Turkey. Keith Smith means this is Speaking Keith. Go to the Free Enterprise Forum website.
There you go.
Which
So I
Neil
said
is
in
the
my
president of, and then once you're on the Free Enterprise Forum website,
Yeah.
on the homepage,
There
you
you go.
can slide down past the fold to a post on November 26, 2024, dubbed Talking Turkey, headline Talking Turkey, and then you will get a feel for what is up for grabs locally.
I think over 6
You
years.
just said pull up Talking Turkey.
I think.
Even Judah's like, what?
I think of 6 years of me doing that was probably the worst.
No, what was the 11? What was the, no, there have been worse. There have been worse, my friend.
This is an example of Smith's brain and mouth not being insane.
Crazy thing is I completely understand what you're saying at all times, which is insanity over here. This comes via Facebook
Well,
Messenger.
hold on.
Okay.
Let's before we do that, let's list what's going on here, right? Albemarle County, Diantha McKeel, that's Jack Jewett.
Diantha McKeel is not running.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But that's
That's my district.
That's the seats that are up, and that's the big wild card. Who's going to run for it? Rio is Ned. Samueler is Jim.
Samuel Miller, Jim Andrews, the
right.
chair of the board.
We don't know where their positions are at the moment.
If I had a hunch, Jim Andrews was not running. It's just a hunch. I would be willing to bet anyone in this room $100 that Ned Galloway is going to run again.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to take that bet?
No.
Judah Wickhauer, you want to take that bet?
No, I might take a bet on Jim, but I wouldn't take one on that.
You want to take the bet on Ned, Judah?
No.
Okay. All right. City Council, Juan Diego Wade and Brian
And they
Pixon.
both announced, but there's nobody running against
No
them.
one
as
running
we-
against
as we
them. What
know
the
at
hell is
moment.
that?
And that more than likely,
Chris Fairchild's going to run again. He lives and breathes this stuff.
100%.
Mad Dog Mike Sheraton, former Fluvanna County head baseball coach, friend of the program, the Columbia District. Would you say Coach Sheridan's going to run again?
He's been there for decades.
Right.
The likelihood of that. I also.
How about T.O., Tony
I also
O'Brien?
think Cunningham and Columbia. I'd be very surprised if somebody runs against
No one's
them.
going to challenge Chris Fairchild or Mike Sheridan.
And
Those are institutions.
my dear friend Tony may have somebody.
Touchdown Tony O'Brien.
May have somebody run.
Touchdown Tony O'Brien, I think, is going to have someone challenge him because Touchdown Tony O'Brien leans toward the left of the political spectrum in a county that leans right with its ideology.
Well, I think what's important is the numbers. Like Albemarle County, 3 of 6, right? So let's assume every one of them are contested. There's a chance that the majority, I realize it's tied, but the majority could lean a certain way on that.
Then you got 4 in Louisa, 3 in Nelson, 2 in Greene.
100%.
4 in Louisa. One of them's inner circle friend Fitzgerald Barnes. Love that man dearly.
I would imagine, just to take a guess.
Talking Turkey, a link he shares in the comment section of my Facebook page. Neil Williamson.
So
love you.
I think the bet that I would really take on that is out of the 17.
Is there going to be any contested elections?
I think you might end up with 2 to 3.
That is such disappointing.
So the question is
disappointing.
100%. The question is why?
The question is this: not just why, but why in the wake of one of the most divisive presidential elections in our nation's history, and why we have a governor's race, right? I mean,
This is a good turnout, and the primary turnout is always presidential. The second one is a governor's year. So there's a lot of folks will be coming out to vote on it. And to quote Neil, every year is a voting, an opportunity to vote in that. But why do contested elections matter?
How in the wake of one of the most talked about, divisive, and momentum-driven presidential races in American history, all while a governor is being elected in the Commonwealth, are we going to have one of the most meagerly contested local election cycles?
So
it is
I'm
pathetic.
I'm going to add context.
It's pathetic.
I'm going to add context to that.
People just do not care. People don't care. If you're not getting in the game, you don't care. If all you want to do is flex your muscles on a keyboard behind a screen with anonymous handles, you are not civically contributing to our community.
as much as I don't want to believe that, I understand what you're saying. And for somebody who's engaged as often as I am, it breaks my heart that you even said that.
I mean,
But I can't deny it.
hard to argue with it.
I can't deny that it exists. The real reason why I think people won't run, it is an obscene amount of work. They don't want to be involved, to your point. It's a lot of work. But to put context to it, Tony was sick.
Touchdown, Tony O'Brien.
Was sick, so I chaired the Planning District Commission last night. And I'm looking around the room. I've been there for 13 years, so I'm not an
Big fan of Tony O'Brien. Big fan of Chris Fairchild.
I'm not an elected official.
Same with Mike Sheridan. Guy throws a mean cutter.
I'm not an elected official. But I looked around the room, and I realized, oh my God, most of these faces have been at this table
For a generation.
forever.
A generation.
Forever.
Isn't Ann Malik in her 5th term? McKeel just finished her 3rd term, is about to finish her 3rd term.
Yeah. Well, I wish her all luck.
Nad's entering his 3rd term.
So the question.
These are 4-year terms, people.
So the question becomes, why don't we? And let's be honest. Take a look at the color of their hair, right, and their age, right. They're usually not. There's a few exceptions.
Michael Pruitt.
Mike being one. Michael Payne being another.
Mike Pruitt's a millennial.
That are younger. But why aren't younger people
Holler back, Mike Pruitt. Holler back.
engaged? Because it's a ton of work, and it's generally the people that are in later years in their
Michael
life.
Payne, this is his primary source of income. Michael Pruitt is working a job as an attorney, as a housing advocate attorney.
He's pretty good at it too.
Very good at it. This comes from someone who is asking for anonymity in the Facebook message space. I love the concept of industrial and commercial. Hold on. I love the concept of industrial and commercial converted to residential. He says, however, that is very expensive undertaking that will require construction, construct to perm leverage products on top of buying out current leases or waiting for vacancies. The conversion of plumbing and code is going to require the product to be expensive once delivered. We need more workforce housing, not housing that will be $3,000 per month. We are in a pickle as a community. Converting a vacant commercial raw piece of land, sure, but converting an existing structure to residential is insanely expensive.
100% right.
This is the guy that's in the game.
100% right, with a couple of caveats to it.
This guy does this professionally for a living.
Got it. A couple of caveats to that. Generally, it's in the right location. It depends on where you're going. Each project's a little bit different. I do understand this world, right? You've got to bring $10 million worth of water and sewer infrastructure to the site, so forth and so on. So each site will get looked at on its own merit. Back to my comment, yes, I think this is good. I think this is a great tool to be in the toolbox. Yes, I think they should do that. To this gentleman's comment, Neil's comment, and my own comment, you're probably not going to see a huge influx of change.
Caitlin Person, welcome to the
Unless
broadcast.
you
Vanessa
have-
Parkhill, hello.
Unless you have such a size and mass as Scott Addition. Now that works. There's a reason why. And trust me, if you ever go down there, try to find a parking spot to go to a brewery. You can't.
I would love Scott's edition. Woody Fincham, commercial space is heading the direction of being blight because there aren't enough tenants for it. Yeah. Scott's edition, as a result of an area that was blighted for a while and they came in after all that happened, it would be very intelligent for our leadership here locally to get ahead of the curve and think ahead. You know, it would be proactive rather than reactive.
It's just a tool in the toolbox, right?
James Watson,
Hey,
your
James.
brother-in-law. It's going to be great when the Diamond in Richmond is replaced with a state-of-the-art sports and recreation complex, which is in the works now.
Yep, 100%, yeah. So, there was a huge community investment, huge private sector investment down there. If you have an opportunity to go down there, wander down there, it's 100% different than what it used to be. Again, it's a great tool in the toolbox. Is it going to be impactful for every reason that folks are lining out there why it won't be? Plus, there's owners out there that don't want it to make money, right? There's a whole world out there that they want the tax write-off of a piece of property losing revenue. I'm an advocate of doing it. Don't all of a sudden think like the rezoning in the city that we're going to end up with 50,000 new units overnight. It is not going to be like that.
Neil Williamson highlights Natalie Ostrin as part of the next generation of politicians as
thank
well.
You. Thank you. Missed that. But by and far, They're generally boomers or approaching boomer age. And, because, and I know this because I see that, if you do that, and I've been saying this for years, all on the show, if you do that job well, you're putting 30 to 40 hours a week in, minimum. If you do it well. If you don't, that's a different story.
Highlight as we close the program, your national award. An hour flies when you're having fun on Real Talk with Keith Smith.
Look, as I said in my post, this is not about me.
Riz Media winner, Keith Smith, Yes Realty Partners.
Thank you.
Fresh haircut, got the Marine Corps pin on, got a great pocket square,
You know what
a
that
nice button,
You know what that's
button up, button up and button down, collared shirt, pimping the blazer, looking sharp.
No button down.
Oh, no buttons on that? I thought there were buttons on that. No. You don't like the buttons on the collar?
I don't.
How come?
I don't know. It's not my thing.
Okay.
Are we going to go here, huh?
Yeah.
I don't like the way a tie looks in a button down.
Okay.
That's just my thing.
There you go.
And maybe that's just.
Well, you're not wearing a tie.
I understand that, but if I understand that, but I have flexibility. I can put a tie on it.
Okay.
I can't put a tie on it.
Okay,
right?
gotcha.
I can put a tie. This shirt has flexibility.
Okay.
Can't believe we're down to shirts and buttons again.
Well, it's the end of the show.
Yeah, but no. If you read my post, it's about Reese Media has taken a very forward national approach on housing and affordability, and I have to really give a shout out to them that they're doing that. And this is a industry media magazine organization where they're starting to actually have conversations nationally how our industry needs to get involved in housing affordability. This zoning conversation you and I have been talking about, and Neil's been talking about, how it matters and how it makes a difference. So the shout out's really to them to go ahead and do this. And in September, I'm supposed to be on some panels and with the CEO event again. So hopefully I get an opportunity to talk about the importance of doing this the real way, in my opinion. There's again, I got to send $5 here to him in a minute. Is the silver buckshot, not the
Robert Liberty?
Yeah, this not this. I literally have to Venmo him $5 now on that, because he'll call me and say, "Where's my $5?" But all the things we're talking about are these silver pellets, and they just got to be a lot more of them to make an impact. And when you have national organizations or national media organizations starting to take this on and getting our industry and our folks that are in doing this on the ground every day, understanding and talking about it and getting in front of these 17 elected officials in our local area, how important this stuff is. Look, converting the commercial over that is not going to make a huge impact, but it is clearly going in the right direction. And if we can keep the decision makers that work on zoning that allows new product to be built, that's when prices will start stabilizing. Other than that, Charlottesville will be 15% next year, maybe even more. So there you go.
Keith Smith.
11-17, look at that.
Real Talk with Keith Smith, online at realtalkwithkeithsmith.com. Support the partners that make the program possible. Look at the brands and logos on screen and support the businesses that make the program possible. You can click the Partners tab on Real Talk with Keith Smith,
How'd you know
where
I was
this
just
show is
thinking
archived. It's my job. And when you click the Partners tab, you will see the personally vetted businesses that will help make your life in real estate way easier.
Wrap up with this. Thank you to you, and thank you to Judah, because without you two, they would not know about what we do.
Absolutely, our pleasure.
Thank you.
Our pleasure to sit shotgun and watch you drive the convertible with the wind blowing your hair down Route 53.
Oh, yeah, we would never do that. It would mess up the hair. We can't do that.
Okay, no convertible top down. The I Love CVille show is up at 12:30, where Elliot Harding, the defense attorney for Don Morris, on set to highlight what has become the case and conviction of the year. 12:30 p.m. So long, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Well done, Keith Smith.
Thank you, sir.